Welcome to the world of science fiction where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The SS Calypso shuddered as warning alarms blared through the cockpit. Engineer Jace Varro gripped the controls, his knuckles white. "Come on, girl, hold together," he growled, but the ship's hull groaned under atmospheric entry. Fire licked the viewport as the jungle planet Zephyr 7 rushed up to meet him. The impact threw Jace against his harness. Smoke filled the cabin. Gasping, he unbuckled and crawled through the wreckage, his left leg screaming in pain. Blood trickled from his temple. Survive first, panic later. He grabbed a survival kit and kicked open the bent hatch. Sunlight blinded him. The air was thick with the scent of alien flora, sweet like rotting fruit and ozone. Before he could take 3 steps, his leg buckled. He collapsed, vision blurring. A shadow loomed over him. Not human. 4 arms, silver blue skin, and eyes like molten gold. Kesha, a luminary healer, tilted her head. "Your bones are fractured," she said, her voice melodic but clinical. One hand pressed a device to his neck. Cold spread through his veins. Jace jerked. "What?" "Neural suppressant. You'll feel no pain while I work." Her other hands unfolded a medical kit with terrifying efficiency. He tried to sit up. "Wait, I need to." A sharp click. A bone stabilizer clamped around his thigh. Jace hissed, but felt nothing. Kesha's upper hands probed his ribs while her lower ones prepared a biotic gel. "You're lucky we found you," she murmured. "The Vorax Syndicate shoots down trespassers on sight." Jace's stomach dropped. "The Syndicate. Galactic corporate raiders. I wasn't trespassing. My nav system glitched." Kesha's golden eyes narrowed. "Or you're lying." She leaned closer, her scent like rain on metal. "But your pulse suggests fear, not deceit." A rustle in the foliage. Kesha's 4 arms tensed. 2 drew weapons, a plasma blade, and a slender pistol. "Drones," she whispered. Jace followed her gaze. Spider-like machines scuttled through the trees, their red sensors scanning. "Syndicate scouts." Kesha hauled him up with surprising strength. "Can you run?" Jace tested his leg. The stabilizer held. "Yeah." "Where?" "Somewhere they won't follow." She dragged him into the jungle, her lower hands leaving subtle traps. Acid pods, sonic disruptors. Behind them, explosions erupted as drones triggered her countermeasures. Jace's mind raced. Why is a healer this good at combat? As they reached a hidden cave, Kesha barred the entrance with a biolock. "Rest. The suppressant wears off in 2 hours." Jace slumped against the wall. "You saved my life." "Why?" Kesha's gaze flickered. "Let's just say, I dislike the Syndicate more than I distrust humans." Outside, the drone's screeches faded. But Jace knew this was only the beginning. Jace woke to the sound of dripping water. The cave's walls shimmered with bioluminescent moss, casting eerie blue light over Kesha as she adjusted a holographic map. Her 4 arms moved with precision, 2 tracing escape routes, 1 monitoring a portable scanner, the last holding a steaming cup of something pungent. "You're awake," she said without looking up. "Drink this. It'll counteract the neural suppressant." Jace took the cup, grimacing at the bitter taste. His leg still ached, but the pain was dull now. "How long was I out?" 6 hours. The Syndicate drones have retreated. For now." She finally turned, her golden eyes reflecting the hologram's glow. "You're not just an engineer, are you?" Jace stiffened. "What makes you say that?" Kesha tapped the scanner. "Your implants. Standard Earth Fleet issue. And this." She tossed him a cracked data chip from his survival kit. "Encrypted military schematics." "Damn it." Jace pocketed the chip. "I was Fleet. Now I'm freelance." "Freelance thieves don't carry prototype blueprints for quantum dampeners." She leaned closer, her voice dropping. "The Syndicate wants this tech. Badly enough to shoot down your ship over a quarantine planet. Jace exhaled. No point lying now. It destabilizes warp cores, turns their dreadnoughts into floating coffins. Kesha's hand stilled. You were selling it to the rebellion on Town 9, but the Syndicate intercepted the deal. He rubbed his temples. I didn't expect them to chase me into restricted space. A low hum filled the cave as Kesha's scanner flared red. She cursed in her native tongue. They're back, and they've brought a hunter. Drek's forces stepped over the smoldering wreckage of a drone, his augmented eyes scanning the jungle. Tall, clad in black Syndicate armor, his face was a patchwork of scars and cybernetics. Find the human, he ordered the squad behind him. Alive. The dampener's worth nothing if his brain's pulp. A subordinate hesitated. The luminary rebel. Drex backhanded him. That witch is collateral. Burn her if she interferes. Jace followed Kesha through a narrow crevice, his breath ragged. You never told me why you're really here, he whispered. Kesha's lower left hand gripped his wrist, pulling him faster. 3 years ago, the Syndicate raided my village. Took my sister for their bioweapon on trials. Her voice was ice. I infiltrated their labs, stole data, became a fugitive. Jace's stomach twisted. Did you find her? Kesha's silence was answer enough. A twig snapped behind them. Too close. Kesha shoved Jace down as a plasma bolt seared the air where his head had been. Run, she hissed. They sprinted, dodging through towering ferns. Jace's legs screamed in protest, but adrenaline kept him moving. Behind them, Syndicate hunters fanned out, their rifles humming. Kesha suddenly yanked him sideways into a hidden gully. Wait. A hunter lunged from the brush. Kesha's upper arms moved in a blur, one disarming him, the other driving a vibro knife into his throat. The man crumpled. Jace stared. You're not just a healer. Kesha wiped the blade on her tunic. And you're not just a thief. Now move. They reached a cliff edge. Below, a river cut through the jungle. No way back. Drex's voice boomed through a megaphone. Surrender the chip, human, or watch me peel the skin off your alien pet. Kesha's hands tightened around her weapons. Plan. Jace grinned. Ever seen a human make a grenade from a power cell and spit? Her golden eyes gleamed. Make it count. As the hunters closed in, Jace hurled the makeshift explosive. The blast sent rocks tumbling, cutting off pursuit. Jump. Kesha grabbed his hand. They plunged into the river below, the current swallowing them whole. The river spat them out onto a muddy bank, half a mile downstream. Jace gasped for air, his ribs burning. Kesha hauled him up by his collar, her forearms surprisingly strong. No time to rest, she said, scanning the tree line. They'll track us by thermal signatures. Jace coughed up river water. Where now? Kesha hesitated, then pointed toward a towering cliffside covered in vines. Home. The vines parted under her touch, revealing a hidden entrance carved into the rock. Inside, the tunnel glowed with soft bioluminescence, leading downward into a vast cavern. Jace froze at the sight before him. A luminary village stretched across the cavern floor, domed huts made of woven crystal fibers, bridges of living wood connecting platforms along the walls. Dozens of silver-blue figures moved gracefully between them, their forearms tending to gardens, crafting tools, or soothing children with multiple hands. An elder with markings like Kesha's stepped forward, his golden eyes wary. You brought an outsider. Kesha bowed her head. He's marked by the Syndicate, father. Like we were. The elder studied Jace, then sighed. Then he is already dead, as we will be if Drex finds this place. Jace straightened. I can help. I've seen Syndicate tactics. If they're after me, I can draw them away. No. Kesha's hands gripped his shoulders. You don't understand. They don't just want you. They want Sephor-7. In the elder's hut, Kesha unfolded a hologram from a hidden data crystal. The image showed a massive facility buried deep in the jungle. The Syndicate calls it Project Eclipse, she said. A bioweapon that targets specific DNA. They tested it on my sister, on hundreds of luminary. The hologram zoomed in, rows of pods filled with motionless figures. Jace's stomach turned. They're weaponizing your people's biology. Keshia's father nodded. Our cells regenerate faster than any known species. Drex wants to splice that trait into his soldiers. Then add a modification. The hologram shifted, showing a viral strain. A plague, Keshia whispered. One that only kills non-syndicate DNA. They'll own the galaxy. Jace's mind raced. That's why they shot me down. They can't risk anyone discovering this planet. A sudden alarm blared through the cavern. Scouts rushed in, signing frantically. Keshia translated, her face hardening. Drex's forces. They've found the outer tunnels. Drex stood atop a ridge, watching his men plant charges along the cliffside. Bring me the human's head, he ordered, and the luminary data cores. Burn the rest. A subordinate hesitated. Sir, the bioweapon isn't stable yet. If we... Drex backhanded him. Then stabilize it. Use the villagers as test subjects. Jace and Keshia sprinted through the cavern, rallying defenders. We need to evacuate, Jace urged. Keshia shook her head. There's nowhere left to go. Then we fight. Jace grabbed a plasma cutter from a workbench. I've got an idea, but I need your people's help. He explained quickly. The quantum dampener schematics in his chip weren't just for ships. We can rig it to scramble their weapons, but it'll take all your engineers. The Elder frowned. You would trust us with human technology. Jace met Keshia's eyes. After today, I'm pretty sure I'm the one who needs to earn your trust. Keshia's hands tightened around her blades. Then let's get to work. As the first explosions rocked the cavern entrance, the luminary moved with eerie synchronicity. 4 arms weaving circuits, splicing wires, and forging weapons from salvaged tech. Jace watched Keshia direct them, her voice steady. For the first time since the crash, he felt something like hope. Then the roof caved in. Drex's voice echoed through the dust. Run all you want. The eclipse is coming. Dust choked the cavern as Syndicate troops rappelled down from the shattered ceiling, their rifles sweeping the panicked luminary. Jace dragged Keshia behind a crystal hut just as gunfire shredded the air where she'd stood. The dampener, is it ready? She shouted over the chaos. Jace checked the device in his palm, a jury-rigged sphere of luminary crystal and stolen Syndicate circuitry. It'll fry their weapons for 30 seconds. Maybe. Keshia bared her teeth. Then we move fast. She whistled, a sharp trill that echoed through the cavern. Instantly, luminary warriors melted into the shadows, their 4 arms flexing around blades and scavenged plasma pistols. Drex's boots crunched over broken crystal as he strode into the village square. Pathetic, he spat, kicking over a cooking fire. You hid like rats while we perfected your sister's corpse into a weapon, Keshia. A whisper of movement above him. He barely dodged as Keshia dropped from the ceiling, all 4 arms slashing. Drex blocked 2 strikes with his cybernetic forearm, but the other 2 blades grazed his ribs. You talk too much, she snarled. Drex backhanded her with a reinforced gauntlet. Keshia rolled with the blow, flipping backward to land beside Jace. Now, she yelled. Jace smashed the dampener into the ground. A pulse of blue energy erupted, shorting out every Syndicate rifle in the cavern. 30 seconds. Jace lunged forward, driving his plasma cutter into a hunter's gut. The luminary attacked in eerie silence, their multiple limbs a blur. One warrior pinned a Syndicate soldier while another slit his throat. A Elder hurled acid pods that melted through armor. Drex roared, drawing a serrated vibro knife. You think this changes anything? The bioweapon is already loaded on their orbital cruiser. Keshia froze. You wouldn't. Your own men are here. Expendable. Drex tapped his wrist. Come. Detonate the charges. The ground trembled. Above them, the cavern's ceiling groaned. Roof collapse. A luminary scout screamed. Jace grabbed Kesha's wrist. The back tunnels. Go. They ran as the world shattered behind them. Boulders crushed huts, Syndicate and Luminary alike vanishing under the avalanche. The last thing Jace saw before the dust swallowed everything was Drex vanishing into an escape pod, his laughter echoing. Kesha dragged Jace into a narrow lava tube just as the entrance sealed behind them. The survivors, maybe 24 Luminary, huddled in the flickering glow of bioluminescent moss. Jace coughed blood. He's going to wipe you out from orbit. Kesha's lower left hand gripped his, tight as a vice. Not if we take that cruiser first. One of the elders hissed. Madness. We are healers, not soldiers. You were healers, Kesha said softly. Now, we're vengeance. She turned to Jace, her golden eyes reflecting the distant fires. You still have that data chip, the one with fleet codes. Jace's grin was feral. I've got a better idea. He pulled a cracked holopad from his vest, the one thing he'd salvaged from the crash. Drex wants to play with bioweapons. Let's give him a human specialty. The screen flickered to life, displaying schematics for Project Eclipse. But now with modifications. Kesha leaned closer. What did you do? Jace tapped the final command. Turned his perfect weapon into a vaccine. And the delivery system. Oh, that's the fun part. Jace met her gaze. We're gonna steal his ship. The escape pod shuddered as it broke through Zephyr-7's atmosphere, its rattling metal frame barely holding together. Jace clenched his teeth, his fingers digging into the restraints as turbulence rocked them violently. Across from him, Kesha's 4 arms worked the manual controls with practiced precision, her golden eyes locked on the growing silhouette of the Syndicate cruiser Eclipse in the viewport. 30 seconds to docking, she said, her voice tight. Jace checked the plasma pistol at his hip, stolen from a dead Syndicate soldier. You sure this virus will work? Kesha didn't look at him. If your modifications hold, it'll rewrite Drex's bioweapon into a cure. If not, we all die screaming. Got it. The pod lurched as magnetic clamps seized it. A harsh metallic clang echoed through the hull. They were locked in. Kesha's hands flexed over her blades. Remember, Drex thinks we're still planetside. Surprise is our only advantage. The hatch hissed open. The escape pod shuddered as it broke through Zephyr-7's atmosphere, its rattling metal frame barely holding together. Jace clenched his teeth, his fingers digging into the restraints as turbulence rocked them violently. Across from him, Kesha's 4 arms worked the manual controls with practiced precision, her golden eyes locked on the growing silhouette of the Syndicate cruiser Eclipse in the viewport. 30 seconds to docking, she said, her voice tight. Jace checked the plasma pistol at his hip, stolen from a dead Syndicate soldier. You sure this virus will work? Kesha didn't look at him. If your modifications hold, it'll rewrite Drex's bioweapon into a cure. If not, we all die screaming. Got it. The pod lurched as magnetic clamps seized it. A harsh metallic clang echoed through the hull. They were locked in. Kesha's hands flexed over her blades. Remember, Drex thinks we're still planetside. Surprise is our only advantage. The hatch hissed open. The docking bay was eerily empty. No guards, no patrols. Just the hum of distant machinery and the faint scent of sterilized air. Jace's instincts screamed trap, but Kesha moved forward without hesitation, her footfalls silent. Then they saw the pods. Row after row of transparent cylinders lined the far wall, each filled with a motionless luminary. Their silver-blue skin was marred by dark veins, their faces frozen in silent agony. Kesha's breath hitched. Test subjects. Jace spotted a control panel. They're alive. Barely. A voice crackled over the ship's comms. Ah, the stowaways. Drex's smug tone dripped through the speakers. I wondered if you'd be stupid enough to come. Kesha's hands curled into fists. Where are you, coward? Oh, I'm close. But first, say hello to an old friend. A pod at the far end hissed open. The figure that stepped out was Luminary. But wrong. Her skin was ashen, her eyes hollow black pits. She moved like a marionette, limbs jerking unnaturally. Keshia went deathly still. Sister. The thing that had been her sister smiled with too many teeth. Drex's laughter echoed as the corrupted Luminary lunged. Keshia barely dodged, her blades flashing. Jace. Go. The bridge is 2 decks up. I'm not leaving you. You have to. She blocked another strike, her voice breaking. Upload the virus to the central core, or this was all for nothing. The possessed Luminary hissed, black fluid dripping from its mouth. She's still in here, Keshia. Screaming. Keshia's face twisted in grief, then hardened into resolve. Then I'll free her. Jace hesitated 1 second longer before sprinting for the door. Behind him, the clash of blades and a scream. Human or Luminary. He couldn't tell. Followed him into the hall. The bridge was unguarded. Drex stood before the main console, his back turned as he input launch codes. Right on time, he mused without looking up. I assume Keshia is dead. Jace leveled his pistol. Not even close. Drex finally turned, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused. You humans. So sentimental. Did you really think you could win? Nah. Jace smirked. But I knew you'd monologue. He pulled the trigger. The shot never landed. Drex moved faster than anything human, a blur of augmented reflexes. His fist connected with Jace's ribs, sending him crashing into a console. Pathetic. Drex loomed over him. The bioweapon launches in 60 seconds. Your little healer's corpse will be the first it consumes. Jace spat blood. Yeah. Then I guess I'll just have to. Reboot it. He slammed his palm onto the console. The holodisplay flickered, then flashed. Upload complete. Drex's face went slack. What did you? The ship's eye chimed. Viral sequence modified. Dispensing counteragent. Alarms blared as vents along the ceiling hissed open, spraying a fine mist through the ship. Drex staggered back, clawing at his throat. No, this was. His skin blistered, his cybernetics short-circuited. Within seconds, he was on his knees, choking on his own failing implants. Jace dragged himself up, grinning. Humanity's oldest trick. Turn your weapon against you. Keshia found him minutes later, limping but alive. Her sister's body lay peacefully in the pod behind her, finally at rest. She didn't speak, just pulled Jace into a crushing embrace, her 4 arms wrapping around him like armor. Jace winced but didn't pull away. We good. Keshia's golden eyes burned into his. We're just getting started. The ship shuddered as the engines roared to life, set on a new course. Earth.